welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we've made it. It is the last book in the Ruthless King series by Michelle St. James. If you haven't already listened to the first two books, Ruthless and Fearless, those links are going to be available in the description section down below. Once you listen to those book reviews, you can come and join us as we dive into the final book in this series, Lawless. Our girl Angel, she's been in power over the Boston Syndicate for about a few months now. And she seems to be a little tougher than when we last saw her, because I blasted her in the last video because she really annoyed me. So Luca is helping her. And if he isn't near her, then Elias or Marco's there. So she's never by herself. So those are the only people she trusts after what happened in LA. So she's been going over the books, both legit and the not so legit books. And she's trying to get like the true understanding of the business. Both of them. So she still has a plan. This hasn't changed, that she's going to take down the Boston and the New York syndicates and anyone else who helped Dante in his quest. David lives with her in Boston. There's a brownstone they have there, and it's, of course, from their father. And he, of course, he stays holed up in the brownstone most of the time because the truth of the matter is the child is still traumatized. You know, he definitely has PTSD. It's a lot going on with him. So he kind of keeps himself kind of stuck in that brownstone. She, however, has fallen asleep in her office, which she spends most of her time is at that office, Rossi Development. And so she hears a sound and she automatically reaches for the gun that's on her desk. Right there, that let me know, okay, she's a little different. She's not freaking out about having to, reach for a gun. She tells whoever it is, show yourself. Otherwise, your DNA is going to get splattered everywhere. So this is truly a different Angel. So guess who comes out of the shadows with his hands up? Our good old boy Nico. I was so happy about this because when I tell you, I was very upset about him being taken out in the last book. I really was upset about that. So I'm glad that they did it, quickly in this book. So that way, bam, he's alive. You're not trying to hope for most of the book that he returns. So I was truly happy about that. So she, of course, is looking at him like, is this real or is she still asleep? Like, she's thinking like, because she's dreamed about this man and everything. So she's like trying to like, is this really him? He's a little thinner in the face, but it's him. So he touches her face and then she slaps the hell out of him and she storms off. So she storms off, gets in the elevator, she leaves. He let her go. And we find out that he and Luca had come up with this plan prior to them getting out. So they knew that with all the people helping Dante, something bigger had to be at play. So even if they were to get David out, Nico was still going to be the next target. But the real problem was that Angel wouldn't be protected because they knew she was his weakness, period. Him faking his death was supposed to be a way, I guess, to take some heat off of her, but I don't necessarily see how it did that, because with him gone, it's kind of like, what is she going to go back to? She's not going to go back to having a normal life. And if he was under that notion, that's kind of crazy. He had already made that comment, Raniero had made that comment to her in LA about, we need to get someone over that Boston Syndicate, So I just don't see how that protected her. And then she actually, rose to the occasion and she took the reins of that organization. So I'm just kind of like, she's a target now. Unless Nico didn't think that that's what she would do, but he's normally like 10 steps ahead. So I was just kind of like, dude, why would you think that you faking your death would like protect her? I guess maybe for a moment. I guess that's my little rant about that. So we find out that Nico's been staying in like cheap motels, eating shitty food for like the past few months. And at night, while she sleeps in the office, he would come in and watch her. Okay, this is still creepy. I get why he does it. This is his only way to be near her, that close. But still, that's like super risky because you don't know who's really watching her. And you're watching her. It's creepy. I don't find it so romantic, and I'm a true romantic, but I just was like, ugh, just seems a little creepy. So then Angel goes outside, she sees Luca, and she's furious, and she screams at him, like, you knew, and he was like, I couldn't tell you. So then she, of course, feels betrayed because her and Luca had like become closer friends, and she felt like, he could have told her, and again, he tells her, I couldn't tell you. And even though she is different, I don't think that they could have told her. Like, there's no way she was going to be able to fake the grief that she was feeling. I feel like that had to be real. So they had to do it this way if they really wanted people to really believe that Nico was gone. So, I mean, I get it, her being upset, but it was like, they couldn't tell you. Like, that wouldn't have worked at all. Because Nico and her probably would have snuck around to see each other or something stupid and like get caught. So it would have been a terrible idea. So the best way to make sure it didn't happen was to tell Luca. Luca's a wall. Or maybe I should say Luca's like a fort. Like, either way, the thing is, he doesn't, you tell him something, it stays. You tell him what to do, he does it. He is beyond loyal when it comes to Nico. And that does not waver. So he walks her home to the brownstone, which is close to the Rossi Development Building, aka her office. She goes upstairs. She leaves Luca. He's outside, of course. She goes to check in on David. He's on antidepressants, and she's always kind of terrified that she's going to walk in on him ODing either by mistake or on purpose, because he's just like a shell of the person that he was before. And she shakes him, make sure he's still alive. He is. And she was, I just wanted to make sure you're okay. I'm just getting in. Go back to sleep. So she goes downstairs. She's having this kind of back and forth in her head about Nico being alive. And then she hears a crash of glass. So she's being shot at in her kitchen. So thankfully she has her gun, and so she ducks down and is trying to assess the situation. So she backs up and is grabbed by none other than Nico. So he tells her that he was coming to tell her that someone's probably trying to take her out, but seems like it's a little too late for that. So he tells her, go upstairs, get David, and that he'll be up there to get them both. So she goes upstairs. It takes a little bit to get David to kind of come to, because he's taking those meds, so he's a little like woozy. And so then finally Nico comes up. David goes white, because remember, he doesn't know. No one else knows. And so Angel tells him, yes, Nico's alive. I'll tell you everything, but right now we got to go. We got to get out of here. So they get out alive. Luca's okay. He has a black, I think it was like a black Escalade ready for them around the block. They go. Luca just says, keep in touch, and they haul off. As soon as they hit the highway, Angel knew where they were going. She knew they were going to the house in Maine. So they stopped to get some some sweatpants, and then the egg guy takes them to the house. David's trembling. When they get to the house, she sends David upstairs to the room. We find out that she's come here like a couple of times in the past few months. And I think it's both because, to feel closer to Nico, also to kind of get David out of the house, get him somewhere nice and serene. Makes sense. So she tells Nico, like, tell me, like basically, what's going, what happened. So he starts kissing her, and then he asks her, if she wants a drink, and he tells her sit down because it's a long story. Nico tells her he's pretty sure that Ranieri's the one behind everything. So he thought that if he could get rid of the three of them, David, him, and Angel, that everything will go back to normal. So he had Dante take David, And the hope was to eliminate all three of them with that, so that he could reinstate the old ways across the board. Well, with only Nico being taken out, he now has put a hit out on Angel and David so that he can get everything back. So Angel was just like, I'm tired of thinking, just take me to bed. And of course, Nico does with no hesitation. So he carries her upstairs and puts her on the bed and just stared at her because he was just like, she's just so beautiful. And then he starts kissing her. He starts eating her pussy. And then he fucks her hard, of course. And they came together. So the next day, he was just going over the fact that he knew he could no longer hide, in a tower to keep her safe. He knew she would want to be right there with him when he went after Rhaenyra. Because Nico's first thought is, no, I protected, let me do it. But he already knows this is a different Angel, and she didn't want to stay behind before, and she's definitely not going to do it now. So they slept most of the next day, and then the following morning, Nico went for a run. Angel was making breakfast. David comes down, asks her, I thought he was dead. And Angel said, I did too. And then she gave him the rundown of everything that happened and what was currently going on. So David was thinking that Nico's the problem, because the attempt happened the day he revealed himself to her. So she told him, no, that's not what happened. And she tried to explain it again. So Nico comes in and says to David, good morning. I don't think we've been introduced properly. And then shakes his hand. Then they have a convo about the fact that he just spoke to Luca and he's out. So apparently Rhaenyra has put a guy from Rome over the syndicate business in New York. But I guess he can't just take Rossi Development because that's like a legit business. But he has someone he's apparently going to try and put in place for that Boston syndicate as well. So Angel tells Nico, no matter what, she doesn't want David alone because he's fragile. And Nico decides, Sarah would be a good person to come to the island. So Sarah had left the syndicate after the whole LA incident. So that was her first time being, ringside to the violence, she trained with the guys and everything like that, but she's normally just stuck behind the computer. And that was her first time, up and close personal with the action. And old girl did not like it. So Nico finally gets Sarah to the house about maybe 2 days later. And her and Angel, of course, give each other this big hug. We find out that since LA, she's been doing private security for large corporations. Angel tells Sarah, that, she'll go over everything about David's meds with her tomorrow before they leave. Sarah was like, I wish we could have spent more time together before you left. And Angel was like, I know, me too, but we'll hang out on the back end. And Sarah was like, I'm going to hold you to it. So then Angel just had to ask Sarah about Luca, but she didn't even have to get it out because Sarah knew it. She was like, you want to know about Luca, don't you? And she's like, yeah. And Sarah was like, basically nothing. It never went anywhere because Luca wouldn't open up. And that makes perfect sense. I think he saw what Nico has gone through with keeping Angel safe and how, the worry of not only, your men in your, syndicate, but someone else being so concerned. And I think he probably just doesn't want to have to deal with that. And when you get involved with someone, you got to open yourself up. And I think he's like, I ain't finna do that. That's it. Looking at it's a weakness, especially in this line of work. So I understand him being like that. So the day of travel, they go to the beach, David and Angel, and they have a little conversation. And she asked him, tell me the truth about how you feel. And he just basically was like, he's not happy about her leaving. And he just kind of feels like she's not dealing with stuff. She's just basically keeping all the anger in and the revenge and everything in her. And he's kind of worried about her, and he feels like she, really shouldn't go. Why we can't just go somewhere and start over? And this is where I'm like, I need you to toughen up. Just like I was hard on Angel, I got to be a little hard on David. Like, I know this is a lot. I understand, you've been through some traumatic situations. Like, literally, I get it. But you all have got to understand that this is no longer the life you all knew. And I think it's the same issue that Angel had. You want to go back to how life was previously, but that life does no longer, it doesn't exist anymore. And so you've got to adjust. But he's trying to, like, he wants to go back to how it was, but it's like it'll never be like that. First of all, you 2 fingers short, you can't grow 2 fingers, okay? So you're maimed forever, and you've been through some traumatic stuff. So you've got to adapt to what is going on. That's my little rant about him. So then they head out the next day. Before they leave, Nico talks to David, and he tells him, make sure she makes it home. And David was like, well, hold on, let me say it correctly. Nico said, I'm going to make sure she makes it home. And David's like, you can't promise that. And Nico says, yes, I can. He can't promise that he's going to come back, but he's going to make sure, he'll do whatever he needs to do to make sure she gets back to him. But he told David something that I was like, good, he needed to say it. He says, but you need to make sure you get yourself better, because you not being well, it's weighing on her. And at first, David was kind of like, what are you talking about? And he was just straight up. He's like, listen, she worries about you all the time. She took on everything. She went in, took on the business aspect of everything, worrying about you all the time, dealing with the grief over me. He's like, and I don't know if she'll ever get over that stuff, and she can't have an added thing to that with you not taking care of yourself. You've got to help her out too. Like, don't put all this on her. And I was super happy he said that, because he clearly has been in a depressed state, and I don't think he's been able to focus on anything but what he's been going through, and it kind of forced him to look outside of it. And he needed that, because I think knowing that, she needs me, and not just throwing all of the pressure and the weight on her, it was kind of like, I got to stop doing that to her. Like, I need to be there for her as well. So I was super glad that Nico said that to him, and it clearly resonated with him, because he just kind of walked, he was like, kind of like, damn, yeah, you're right. So they're leaving. They take the black Escalade to Albany, New York, and then on the way, she asks if, they're going to the Hudson Valley house, and he told her that Hudson Valley house was burned to the ground. Apparently the fire marshal said that it was an electrical outlet, but he thinks it was a message to make sure that if he had faked his death, he had nowhere to go. So they go get a motel and a track phone. Nico calls Raniero, and at first he sounds pleasant, and then of course asks him, where are you? But Nico's not going to tell him that. And then Raniero gets cold and tells him, you brought this on yourself by getting close to that woman. So then Nico asks him, what is it that I can give you so that I can get myself out, as well as David and Angel? And Raniero's like, that's not how this works. And Nico was like, you want something. So Raniero asked him to call back the same time tomorrow. He hangs up the phone right underneath like the 2-minute mark, and then he crashes the phone. They go to the motel that night, and they make love, and they just forget about everything for that night. Because they have a lot of stuff pressing down on them. So the next day, they have a conversation about getting out and revenge. And it was kind of just like a back and forth. He was just kind of trying to gauge her, kind of see where she was. Like, are you more concerned with, getting out of all of this, or is revenge your priority? And she couldn't answer. Because revenge is what she wants, because there's so much rage and pain built up inside of her that I feel like the revenge thing to her is like, oh, that'll give me some relief if I'm able to get that revenge. I don't think that's going to really happen, but that's where she is right now. So they call Raniero, and after back and forth, they find out that he does want something. There's someone named Sean Murdoch who is massively wealthy. He's a tech guy, And he's also like this huge philanthropist as well. And so he apparently has a dark net file drive that he wants. So if they can get this, he'll give them their freedom. So he gives them 1 month to do it. So they go, they buy an iPad with cash, of course, and they start getting to like finding out as much info as they can about Murdoch. So later they go to a little taco place, go in the back. Guess who's there? Luca. So he has a file on Sean Murdoch, and apparently there are rumors about him having dealings in like arms dealings and also like all kinds of stuff, but no proof. So he was really close with his bodyguard Desmond Dermott, but they abruptly parted ways and he moved somewhere else. I think he moved somewhere in Ireland or something, and now he resides in Rome. We know who else lives in Rome, our good friend Raniero. So Luca, of course, has new passports, identities for David, Angel, and himself. And so she started to get upset about it because she's like, you thought you were going to need these. And I'm just kind of like, okay, this man has to prepare like I don't know how many plans. Like, this is her annoying side to me. It's like, yeah, he had to be prepared. Like, you don't know what you're going to be able to do, what you're not going to be able to do, but you prepare for everything, right? And that's what he's doing. But for some reason, she feels like him not telling her that he had done this is like keeping her out of stuff. And it's she makes it such a big deal. And I'm like, I need you to get it together. So Luca leaves, and here's also my thing. You know, at least it's not like he's just getting stuff for himself and not you. He has new identities for you and your brother. So what's the problem? You know, he's like clearly looking out for you. Like, come on. So then Luca leaves and says, him, Marco, and Elias, they're gonna lay low in Miami. Call him if they need him. So they get a flight to Rome, but they're going to have a layover in London. They, of course, join the Mile High Club because he follows her to the bathroom, starts kissing her, sits her up on the sink, eats her pussy, fucks her hard, and someone must have heard them because they were like, are you all right? And she yells, I'm fine, but they're both laughing. So Nico had rented like a little small loft. It was beautiful, though. And they went and rented like a little red car and went to do a little recon. Now, normally I would say red is a little like flashy, but that's Rome. Like it's always red cars there. So it's like, that's probably the more so to fit in a place like that. So they hit out, waiting at the address that they had for Desmond Dermott. And this black sports car comes up, and they're hiding. So of course the people can't see them. And they said something in Italian, so the gate would open, and the person said, I have a message from Sean. So she was ready to go in, and I'm like, girl, you don't know any of the security measures of this of this home. Like, why are you so gung-ho? Like, you need more information. I'm like, she was a little too antsy to go in there. And he had to tell her, no, we do not have enough info to go in. So he's like, he's going to have great security. You got to remember, this is a tech dude that he was friends with, you know. So he's going to have great security, you know. And he's like, and we're not trying to get in and then you get stuck inside and you can't get out. So they spent the rest of the day sightseeing, and then they headed to the pub where, according to Luca's records, Desmond, he goes there a lot. And sure enough, he shows up. So Nico goes up to him, brings up Sean. Desmond's like, well, not Desmond. Nico says, I heard you and Sean aren't close anymore. And the guy's like, I don't know anything. Well, they do a little back and forth, and then he says loudly, I don't know what you're talking about. And then under his breath, he says, everything important to him is in Dublin. And so then Nico gets out of Dodge, grabs Angel, and they get the hell out of there. They drop the rental car off, and they go back to the villa, and when they open, or the loft, and when they open the door, they're met with the click of a gun. So there were two men, and both Nico and Angel were trying to think of ways to disarm them, and they tried to. It went wrong. Nico got the gun out of the one guy's hand, but the other guy grabbed Angel and put a gun to her head, and so that made Nico withdraw. So then the guy cracked Nico across the face, and then of course he wanted to know, like, why are you here? And so Nico said, Rhaenyra sent us. And the guys were looking like, who? And they had like, I think thick Irish accents. And so we find out that the men are there because they work for Sean. And they watch Desmond's moves. So Nico told them that they were on an assignment because Rhaenyra wants to offer him a job. But the guys were like, Desmond's still under contract with Sean, so you two better get out of town. And they were like, don't worry, we're leaving in the morning. We're leaving soon. So the guys leave. Next day they head to London. They're going to ask for help from Pharrell Black. Not to join them in the fight, but they need to hire him for like logistics and weapons. So Nico's brought 2-track phones, and he's going to use one phone to call Luca, and he gave the other one to Angel so she could call David. So David's doing really well. He's even opening up a little bit about what happened, according to Sarah, and he even sounded good to Angel when she talked to him on the phone. So they get to London, and they look up the house that Sean has in Dublin, because there was this article written in Architecture Digest, and the place is like 25,000 square feet. That's huge. And you got to figure out where's that's some shit. They have to do recon, and you don't have anywhere near the resources that you used to have. It's crazy. Neither one of them are broke, by the way. They both have large amounts of money stashed in offshore accounts. So they're not broke, but they still don't have the connections like they had before. So, Luca could kind of help him when he was still running New York, but when he got taken out of place, it's like, So they don't know how they're going to do this. They really are like, how in the hell are we going to do this? So Luca's going to come the next day, and they're going to meet up with Pharrell Black. So she wants to do some sightseeing, whereas he'd rather just, shag all day. So he is worried about her because he can see the spark that revenge gives her. And that terrifies him, because it's like, would she rather choose revenge rather than being free? Ugh. They go to the Eye in London on the Ferris wheel, and of course he starts kissing her, and then he starts fingering her, and he makes her come on his fingers. And then Luca arrives the following day, and he and Angel go shopping, and he's like, you aren't going to slip me again, are you? And she laughed and said, no, not this time. So then they have lunch, and she tries to talk to him and just kind of want to know how he was feeling. And Luca's a wall. He's just like, I'm good. He's like, I do fine by myself. Like I don't, like, you're so like, you should have someone. And he's like, I'm good. So she brought up about Sarah. He said, nope, stop. He's like, listen, she's a nice girl, but I'm not out for long term. So then they get ready. They go to Pharrell Black's club, and only Angel and Nico are let in to go meet with Pharrell. And Pharrell Black says, what shit has she gotten you into this time? As soon as they walk in. So Nico's like, you leave her out of it. And Pharrell's like, you the one that brought her. So Nico says, I protect what's mine. And he says, I think you know a little something about that. And you see kind of a shadow go across Pharrell's his face. So clearly there was a woman at some point. And then before they left out, they went back and forth. Basically, again, it's logistics, and they need weapons. So they're not able to like take any weapons to Dublin. So they need someone to be able to get something to them. So that's what he's gonna supply for them, as well as any surveillance equipment or anything like that. So he's charging them like $1 million for all of this. And Angel was kind of worried, like, can we trust him? And he's like, listen, we ain't got a choice. We need stuff. He has it. We got to do it. Honestly, if he was going to take us out. He could have been did it. We need him at this point. So they're going to wire him the money the following day. And then before they leave out, Pharrell says, was she worth it? And so Nico says, yep. And he says, but I guess you know all about that too. So, of course, Angel's going to ask, what did you mean? And he was like, Pharrell had someone once. He asked me to help her, and I did. So then it makes sense of why he was okay with going to Pharrell, because he knows Pharrell Black kind of understands what it is. Now I'm kind of curious as to I'm kind of curious about his story. So they're walking in the streets and someone calls out Nico's full name, and they're like, Nico Vitale. And he, of course, goes for he has his gun, but he doesn't have a gun. And the guy hands him an envelope. He looks at the paper, and then they head to the airport. And Angel turns on her tablet and she starts looking at all the information. So basically, Sean Murdoch is in the arms dealing. And if they hand over the information from that, if they're able to retrieve that zip drive, the darknet file, it's going to make Rhaenyra the most powerful arms dealer in the world. So now that's that catch-22 thing. Okay, we get our freedom, but then we give this man this massive amount of power. It's kind of crazy. So they've been doing surveillance of Sean's place. They're in Dublin. And they've been doing it for days now. Still don't know how the hell they're going to get in. It's just so much high-tech security, and he has dogs. So they have Sarah, she tries to hack into a system, but it's still just a long way off for them to get everything that they need. So the stuff from Pharrell is going to arrive in about a week. It's cutting it close, and Nico's trying to think of a way to get Rhaenyra, let me say it correctly, a way of not giving Rhaenyra this information. Because this is a lot of information that... they say you don't want the wrong thing, something in the wrong person's hands. That's precisely what this would be if he gets this file. So Luca's like, you don't have a choice. But he's still trying to think of a way. So Angel goes to, she goes looking up, social media, any kind of public events he has. They're trying to figure out a way to get near him, to try and figure out some stuff. So there is this event coming up, this Clean Water Initiative. It's going to be held at the house in Dublin, but it's invite only. So she gives David a call, Angel does, and basically it's he asks her, have you come up with a plan? And she's like, well, not fully. So David posed a great question to her, which was what Nico had said to her, which was, would you be okay if we could just start over? And normally someone's mind would be like, yeah, that's perfect, right? I start a new life. Great. She's having a hard time answering the question, which means, again, that revenge thing is what's playing with her. That's what's, that's more so where she's leaning. She wants that revenge so bad, and she feels like the people that have caused harm to her and her family, they need to pay. And she feels that just as strongly as ever. So she gets off the phone because she doesn't want to give him her true answer. So Nico comes up with the idea that he will have a press release sent out from Mediacom, his company, saying that he's alive. So he's doing this because Mediacom already has his long-standing invitation to this event. So Angel, of course, was like, she didn't like it. But Luca was like, actually, this might work. And Angel will be his +1. They're going to give Luca some high up position, so then they can all go. Everyone's going to be so mystified with him that Angel and Luca are going to be able to move a little bit more freely. So Nico goes to church. Of course, he's worried about Angel, but we find out why he's really here. Agent Kane comes to sit by him, and of course, he says, I thought you were dead. And he's like, that's a felony, faking your death. And so Nico told him, well, you have bigger fish to fry. And he offers him this deal. He wants total amnesty for him, Angel, David, and Luca, and all the Vitale family. So of course Kane was like, I can't promise that. So Nico gets up, he's finna leave. And Kane's like, wait, what do you have? So he tells him about the proof he will have on Murdoch, who we find out the FBI has been watching him for a while. And proof of Raniero and all their connection to illegal arms dealing and everything else. So he's willing to completely cooperate. And so Nico says, I need to know if you can do the deal in a week, and I will have the information within 2 weeks. So Kane was like, how do I reach you? And Nico's like, you can't, but I'll be back in contact. So later that night, her and Nico have a fun night. He tied her up and her wrists, put tie across her eyes to cover them. He starts eating her pussy, and when she was about to come, he stuck his finger in her asshole, and she came like a beast. So then he let her up. She was ready to go to he was ready to go to Pound Town, but she was like, nope. She decided to give him a blowjob, and so she let him come in her mouth. She swallowed every drop. So they lay for a while, and then he tells her about the deal, and she freaks out. Even after he told her that he wanted it to, to be them together, like literally forever, and David to recover and have a new life. Because the truth was, life in prison for Raniero to her is not enough. She wants him dead. She asked him if it was a done deal, and he said, no, I'm still thinking about it. And she's like, well, you need to think fast because we have Murdoch's event coming up. So our girl is really consumed with anger and bitterness, and she's finding it super hard to let go. So they let the board of Mediacom know that Nico was alive, and know they are going to move forward with the plan to try and get the info off of his computer. So they figure it's probably in either his study or his bedroom. So Nico's worried about Angel for more than one reason. He lets her know that it's risky having her be the one to try and do it. She was a little cocky. And she's like, I did it at John Landon's house. And Nico had to check her and was like, listen, this isn't the same thing. That was a laid back, more so event at his home. This is a tech person. This is different, sweetheart. This guy is paranoid, so his security is going to be a heck of a lot different. So she goes dress shopping for the Murdoch event and was able to actually go by herself, which she needed because it's been she's been cooped up in a little cottage with Nico and Luca. She needed a little time away. So she's in the dressing room. Girl gets a wave of nausea. So she has to sit down. Then she starts thinking, fuck, I'm 2 weeks late. She was trying to remember if they had used protection, but it's like her brain was just too fuzzy she could remember. So she goes, she buys a test, gets back to the cottage, goes in the bathroom, takes the test. Guess what? Our girl's preggers. She stuffed the box underneath the trash, and then she put the test in her pocket. So when Nico knocked on the door, she decided not to tell him because she knows he's going to make her go back home to Maine. He's already, wanting that option for her. You can go back and, and she knows he'll do that if she tells him that she's pregnant. So she's like, I'll just tell him afterwards. So they go for a walk, talk about everything. He tells her about Kane helping out in LA. That's how they were able to get that last piece of crucial information to find David. And he was still waiting for her to kind of give the go ahead for him to accept that deal. And she's still kind of on the fence about it, and I'm like, why? I understand you have this revenge and all. I get it. But now we've entered into the equation. You're pregnant, This, I would think a new life would be hands down the decision. But that shows you how consumed she is with anger and revenge. So they spend some time trying to help her learn how to do the lockpick. And then she gives David a call. They have their little conversation. And he basically was saying the same thing to her and letting her know that, because he's doing a lot better, right? He's kind of seen the light, and he's trying to move forward. He apparently has picked up a little weight too, like he's eating, like he's trying to get himself together. And he just let her know, listen, you need to do your best. He's like, you're so consumed with this revenge and this pain and this hate. And he's like, there's nothing you can do about what happened. He's like, even if you do whatever it is you're thinking about doing for revenge, nothing will change what happened. So why are you so focused on it? Why aren't you looking towards the future and trying to, live a new life? He's like, that's what I'm thinking about. That's where my brain is. And it kind of helped her. It shook her a little more, and I was happy about that, because the mere fact that she's found out she's pregnant, and this heifer is still like, nah, bitch, I want revenge. She needed to hear something, and I think hearing David say that to her and having the baby, I think that helped her push her in the right direction of, you know what, I do want the new life. But I think she needed both of those things, because one of the other, it wasn't going to work. She needed those two things together to kind of go, you know what, I choose life. So I was happy about that. I was like, thank goodness, somebody need to get through to her, because that girl is consumed. So they head to the event. Angel tells him that she has thought about the question and she chooses life. And she had been doing some digging herself the past 4 months. And so whatever the information she had as well to like take some people down, she's going to hand that over to Agent Kane as well. They get to the party. And of course, Sean Murdoch comes up to him, introduces himself. She gets the like creepy feeling with him. Like he is just, now you can tell like this person is not what they appear. Like this is something else. So they walk around. They've estimated there probably like 10 guys watching, and they decide, let's go, So she goes, she finally gets to his office. She picks the lock, drops the pen, but she doesn't know she's done that. She gets inside. She doesn't see a computer, but she does see a file drive. So they tell her, you know what, take it, because they've got mics, by the way, because they had earpieces and everything. She was about to leave when Ian, who's Sean's bodyguard, comes in. He asks her what she's doing in there. She comes off with a good lie. She goes, my phone died and I need to use the phone. And I need, to make a call. She even sounded convincing, like, to herself. She's like, damn, that came off pretty easy. But he had found that hairpin outside. So he knew that wasn't what it was. So he tells her he found it. And also because she had came there with Nico Vitale. And that they had been asking Desmond Dermont, questions. He wasn't buying what she was telling. So he's coming towards her. And as he's coming up to her, because he's going to violate her. That's what he's going to do. But she was trying to get the letter opening because she's going to stab him. But before she could reach for it, he goes down. They took him out. Whole gun silencer. So he's gone. So it was Nico that did it. So they get back to the party. They're met by Murdoch. Nico was ready for a whole shootout. It didn't happen, but he was ready. Like, he was ready to go in his jacket and get his gun. He was ready to get out. Just go guns blazing. But it didn't happen. And they got out of there. So the file drive they found in his office I think it was his bedroom, actually. No, it was his office. I'm sorry. It was the office. It was the correct one. It had the coordinates and dates of shipments. So he was working with warlords all over the country, the world, brokering arms deals and drug deals worth billions. Okay. So he did all this philanthropy, and I think he probably did to justify it, So they get out of Dublin, meet up with Agent Kane in, I think Monte Carlo, and gave everything they had. He did give them all amnesty. And when they called Raniero, he asked him, are you still going to guarantee that you're going to, let us walk away? Because they can't act like, oh, we don't need you anymore. They need Raniero to believe that they're still dependent on that. And so he's like, sure. He's like, but you need to bring the girl to the dock in Rome, and you know where. And he's like, and if you don't, both of you are dead. So they go to the hotel room the next day. The FBI has cleared the room. It's all safe. Agent Kane told him that his men, they're ready to go. So they get to the dock. We find out the reason he wanted them to do the mission was because even if he let them go, Sean Murdoch was going to hunt him down. So he figured he'd get what he wanted, make himself more powerful, more richer, but he still gets to get rid of them. So he hadn't anticipated on Nico going to the feds, right? Because, that's their no thing. You never go there. So because of that, he, messed up. But again, he still doesn't know this yet. So they get him to confess that he wanted the darknet file and why he wanted it, and the FBI swoops in, and it's a gunfight. Nico, of course, pushes down Angel to the ground as soon as it starts. Angel's surprised to see the calmness on Rhaenyra's face. It's like he was ready to embrace whatever his destiny was. And one of the agents shot him once. He went down, but he wasn't dead. And then there was this gun that was right by Angel's head, and she was thinking about reaching for it, but before she could, someone else shot Rhaenyra, put the final bullet in him. So she looked down, and blood's coming from in between her legs, and then she heard Nico yell, "We need help," because he's probably just thinking she shot. So she didn't lose the baby. They had put her on bed rest for a while, and they stayed in London until it was safe, and then they went to Bali, which is where they have settled. She has a daughter, and they have a daughter, let me say that correctly, but they never tell us the name. Luca came to visit them while they were in London, and he told them, he'd always wanted to be an uncle. David's doing well. He helps out at the orphanage in Bali, and he has a crush on one of the guys there. So they all get a second chance at a new life, and that's how it ends. I was so happy about that. I was worried that something was going to happen to Luca, because in another series I did, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. I think it was Tangled Up in Ice, the Tangled series. That happened to where the bodyguard got taken out, and I was so hurt because he was a good dude. I really liked the character, and he had met like the main character's friend, and they were building this life. I was like, oh, and to have him taken out. So I was kind of afraid that was going to happen to Luca. I really was terrified that was going to happen to him. So I'm glad it didn't. This was a great read to me. I want to know what you guys think. Drop down in the comment section and the discussion board and let me know what you think. Make sure you like and subscribe this video. If you are looking for a nice notebook, nice journal, I do have some for sale. There is a link in the description section below as well. As always, thank you for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.